The remarkable journey of an Ironman. The Ironman triathlon is one of the toughest athletic competitions in the world. As the first person with Down syndrome to conquer it, Chris Nikoff offers a lesson in perseverance and hope. The Florida sky had grown dark, and Nikic felt quite ready to quit. Felt ready to quit. He had been pushing through the grueling competition for more than 13 hours. It suddenly became too much. He struggled to breathe in the hot, humid air. His feet burned as they pounded the pavement while he ran. His legs felt like concrete, and it seemed as if the muscles in his back had been put through a shredder. Nikic, 21, had started the day with determination. If he could finish this race and do so within the 17-hour time limit, he would be the first competitor with Down syndrome to complete an Ironman triathlon. That long distance race, a 2.5 mile or 2.4 mile swim, followed by a 112-mile bike ride and a 26.2-mile run, is considered one of the most difficult athletic challenges in the world. And there he is with his coach, or with his guide, it says. Such a feat would not just put Nikic in the record books, it would also prove to him and to those around him that he could, in fact, do big things. And if he could do big things, then maybe one day he would be able to fulfill his ultimate dream, to live independently and have a wife and a family of his own. Having completed the swimming and cycling portions, all Nick Itch had left to conquer was the run. Would he make it? The finish line was 16 miles away, and he was breaking down. It was then that Nikic summoned the strength to persevere by reminding himself of the simple vision he had set for himself. 1 step forward, 2 steps forward, 1 step, 2 steps, 3. Isolated, left out, excluded. To understand the challenges Nick Itch faced during the race held this past November in Panama City Beach, Florida, you have to go back to his childhood. Nick Itch has Down syndrome, a genetic condition that occurs when a person is born with an extra chromosome. Chromosomes are tiny structures inside cells that determine how a baby's body forms and how it functions as it grows. The extra chromosome affects the way a child's body and brain develop, leading to certain physical and intellectual differences and an increased risk for some medical issues. And here he is when he was 3. At 5 months old, Nick Itch had to have heart surgery. He was so weak and had such poor balance that he didn't walk on his own until he was 4. To keep him from choking, his family fed him baby food until he was 6. When he learned to run, it took months for him to discover how to swing his arms at the side instead of holding them straight above his head. Learning to tie his shoes took him years. We'll come back to this. His parents struggled to get him proper care and attention. They moved him to 7 different elementary schools searching for the right fit. At every turn, experts often spoke of Nick Itch in terms of limits instead of possibilities. So they talked about what he couldn't do instead of what he could. I always felt isolated, left out, excluded, Nick Itch says, describing the emotions he experienced growing up. He found comfort in sports. By his early teens, He was running sprints, swimming, and playing basketball in the Special Olympics, a series of athletic competitions for people as young as 8 who have intellectual disabilities. When Nick Itch was about 15, his parents took him to a parking lot at their home and taught him how to ride a bike. It took 6 months for him to learn to go 100 feet. But once he got the hang of it, there was no turning back. The ultimate test. Here it lets us know that about 1 in 700 babies in the U.S. are born with Down syndrome each year. So that's quite a few. After undergoing a series of ear surgeries that left him weak and unable to leave his home, Nikic became determined to do more than he ever had before. In October 2019, with the help of an endurance training group and Dan Groove, a volunteer coach, Nikic set his sights on the Ironman. The race was the ultimate test. Nikic felt that if he could conquer it, he could do anything. He and Grebe began meeting early in the morning, focusing on making small improvements each day. Grebe helped Nikic learn how to shift gears and balance on his bike, how to ride with the wind instead of against it, how to relax while swimming in the ocean, even around jellyfish. Soon, Nikic added muscle to his 5-foot 10-inch frame. Everyone around him noticed that as he grew more fit, he seemed mentally sharper and more confident. The race neared. Based on all of his trainings, I was certain he would finish in under 17 hours, said Nikic's father, Nick. Unless something went wrong, something can always go wrong. Trouble ahead. Early in the morning on race day, a strong wind swept across the Gulf of Mexico. The first portion of the race was a 2.4-mile swim. Grebe was in the water as a guide, joined to Nikic by a bungee cord. For safety reasons, Florida race officials required Nikic and Grebe to be physically connected while they were in the ocean. Swimming together, they emerged from the choppy seas in just under 2 hours. The 112-mile bike ride came next. Grebe helped Nikic onto his bike and got his feet into the pedals. There would be trouble ahead because Nikic could not balance well enough to sip water while riding. He had to stop and climb off his bike to take a drink. When he did that on the 22nd mile, he had not noticed that he was standing atop a large mound of red ants. They swarmed his ankles and bit his skin, causing his legs to swell. Nikic managed to get going again, only to accidentally crash his bike a few miles later while speeding down a hill. Again, he kept on. Here he is running. There are no limits. Then came the marathon portion, a 26.2-mile run. It began well enough. Nikic looped through the streets of Panama City Beach in the nighttime darkness, connected to groups so that he could keep from falling and stay on course. He passed a group of family and friends who cheered in support. But at mile 10, everything changed. Nikic slowed so much that it seemed as if he was barely moving at all. He began complaining about the pain. He looked like a zombie, said his sister Jackie, like he was just absolutely done. Nikic's supporters huddled close, hoping to lift his spirits. His father clutched him and whispered in his ear, "Are you going to let your pain win or let your dreams win?" Nikic knew this wasn't only about finishing an Ironman, but also about showing himself what he could achieve in the future, his own home, independence. "My dreams are going to win," he told his father. He began to jog again. 1 step forward, 2, 3, 1 step, 2, 3. He found his rhythm. Nothing could stop him. He crossed the finish line with his arms held high in celebration and a little time to spare. He completed the race in 16 hours, 46 minutes, and 9 seconds. I learned that there are no limits, Nikic said days after finishing the Ironman. Do not put a lid on me. Cool. Let's go back and read what it said here about people with Down syndrome. So Down syndrome is a genetic condition people are born with. Typically, humans have 46 chromosomes in each of their cells. People with Down syndrome, however, have 47. That extra chromosome can cause certain physical and intellectual differences and health issues, including low muscle tone, short stature, so that means that you don't get very tall, and vision and hearing problems. About 6,000 babies in the U.S. are born with Down syndrome each year, which, as we already read, is about 1 in 700. People with Down syndrome are often active participants in their communities. They go to school, work, play sports, and vote. Still, they sometimes face discrimination in school, the workplace, and other areas. Many organizations, including the National Down Syndrome Society, are working to ensure equal rights for people with Down syndrome and to educate the public about the condition. And then if you want to learn more, you can go to ndss.org. Thanks for listening.